Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Vero Engineering Neuron, which is actually a double detent, non-locking double detent flipper / front flipper / a whole bunch of things. Really interesting. Definitely fairly unique. I'm a big fan of Vero stuff, so this is an interesting one. Thank you so much to the gentleman who loaned this knife to me for review. Thanks to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So these were here and then they were gone. They might come back, but there are some new variants of this that are coming soon, at least at the time that I'm recording this. I don't know, by the time you see it, it might be a couple of weeks in the future. So I think they have, this is titanium, but they do have a G10 and micarta and carbon fiber, etc. All are going to be available soon, so make sure you check that out on the Vero Engineering website. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of these of this guy. Overall length of the Neuron coming in at about 6.4 inches overall. Blade length is coming in at 2.75, and then your cutting edge is coming in at about 2.6 inches. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Spyderco PM2, and I don't know why we're starting with Spyderco today, but here we go. So there you go. Not a huge knife, definitely. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2, closer to the size of the Rat 2, and honestly, your cutting edge, almost identical, so something to think about. And then last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. All right, let's go ahead and do thickness. Put this guy down. The action on it's pretty good. These are made by Bestech, if you didn't know, so not manufactured in the United States. The action feels very similar. I've got two Veros that I own, and the action feels fairly similar. Smooth, but not buttered glass, smooth enough to satisfy people who are buying knives at this price tier, right? And then because it is a double detent and not a slip joint, you kind of can use that second detent to kick it back down, which is its own unique form of fidget factor. When you front flip it, sometimes it's not, since it doesn't lock, sometimes it bounces back out of that detent hole, and this happens. So when you are like reverse flicking it, as long as you don't kick it out too hard, you're fine. When you do this, most of the time that's gonna happen. So the front flipper thing is kind of, you can kind of top flip it with your thumb and that'll work, right? There's not enough force here to cause it to bounce. Just be aware that's going to happen sometimes if you front flip it. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. We have relatively similar thickness, maybe just a hair thicker, not anything crazy. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, this guy is both nowhere near as long this way, nowhere near as tall, right? However you want to say that. Not going to be a cumbersome object to carry in general. Let's take a look at the inside. You can get my flashlight right down in the description. And there is some, you can see here, there is some milling there. There's like steel liner, a steel or perhaps titanium liner on this side, which is weird. I'm not sure why that goes all the way down, but okay, it does. It's milled out, right? The thing doesn't feel ultra heavy. Just interesting on the inside. Let's go ahead and zero this out. I don't know what my scale's doing over there by itself on. Titanium and an M390, by the way, coming in at 2.72 ounces. Pretty darn good ratios. I don't think too many people are going to complain, right? Except for people who, find anything heavier than the mini Bug Out to just be like a boat anchor. And well, then, sorry, this is just going to, it's going to rip your pants off as soon as you put it in your pocket. For everybody else, I think this is going to be just fine. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness on this guy. Overall length, the thickness, blade stock thickness is coming in at about 120 thousandths, not super thick, not super thin. I think that'll work out just fine. I think that's, considering the rest of the blade, I think that's just fine. Hardware check. get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, along with like my flashlight. T8, we have a hidden pocket clip screw. That's actually, no, that's wrong. It's actually this screw right here, which is fantastic. This one T8 screw goes all the way through the standoff and is actually holding the pocket clip in place, if I'm not mistaken. I remember taking apart one of my Vero knives to switch out the pocket clip and backspacer, and that was the case. I think that's wonderful. I don't think we need much more integrity on knives like this than just one standoff, and you have one screw holding all that stuff. That's just beautiful how that's done. Very, very nice. Very, very simple for ease of disassembly. Really, really like it. Okay, so moving on to the meat and potatoes here. This has, you know, Vero Ergos. It's just shrunk down a bit, and by that I mean it's similar to, you know, like it's okay. It's just like the okay comfortability of a larger Vero, like, well, here. Good job. I'll get mine out real quick. I should have had those out for the video. And of course, now that I have two knife cases, there's always, the wrong knife case is always on top. Okay, so let's get out the Isotope and the Synapse. Now, these are both much larger, but it's kind of that same curvature that feels okay. It feels a little bit foreign. Like, are my fingers supposed to go here? Are they supposed to go here? It's all right, but it's that shrunk down, and we still have this mega bill, this mega goose bill of a pocket clip. So it's okay. My problem is that the handle's so short that where I want to put my thumb is like right here. But as soon as I, you know, go to cut, I'm pushing down and breaking that secondary detent because there's no lock. So you have to teach yourself to hold it even there. Even there, I went to put my thumb. You have to teach yourself to hold it like this or like this. You cannot put your thumb up here. You can't utilize the jimping that extends out to here. You can't do that because as soon as you push down, you're going to break that detent. That's where the jimping is, right? If you push down on that part of the knife, it's going to come down, and as you almost watched me do on camera there, you don't want to cut your finger. So this is where you should have your hands if you're going to cut with it. Any pressure against the blade, well, obviously it's not going to disengage this way, right? So, not going to be a super comfortable tiny knife. But then again, what are you going to be doing with this knife that's going to require maximum comfort? I don't know. You know, strike that balance however you will. The knife does look good. This is a nice, classy looking knife. Typical Vero lines. Very good aesthetics, at least in my opinion, right? There's enough going on that it's got character and personality and doesn't look like, you know, just a polished steak knife like a lot of knives look nowadays, right? Definitely very Vero, which is good. I like a distinct sort of design aesthetic. I like how he does the pivots, right? Everything looks good. I like his logo on the pocket clip. Real nice. I like how he has Vero up here. The blade is M390. This is the satin finished blade. I like Vero's, you know, like my Isotope, which I didn't have a choice on. It also has that satin finish, and it's okay. I like Vero's tumbled finish the best. This looks, in my opinion, way better. Way better. And all of the edges, everything's nicely knocked down. This is kind of, if you just love satin finishes, right? If you have like a satin finish blade fan website, you know, then okay. Kind of sharp up here, right? This type of blade, you know, normally I'd be like, yeah, it's great for draw cuts, kind of, but if you put any pressure right here while you're cutting, well, then you could break it away and potentially cut your finger, right? This whole time I'm thinking, I just want this to be a locking blade. I really want this to be a countersunk liner lock. That's what I really want, because I think the whole thing becomes substantially more useful as soon as it locks, right? So there you go. I don't know why I still have these other Veros out here. Just move them out of the way. So yeah, as far as, you know, the blade goes, the blade is a nice, I mean, as long as you're not pushing on the spine, yeah, the blade's going to work just fine. You can do your, you know, your draw cuts like this. It's just not quite as comfortable to not be able to put your finger up here. But you can still do it as long as the pressure's out here or wherever the blade is going down. Utilitarian blade shape for sure. The blade gets relatively thin at the edge. It's not going to be a laser beam, but it will definitely slice. It is sharpened very well. That definitely feels like an edge of glass. You know, this little rectangle right here, as you cut, it will be a gunk trap because of those 90-degree ledges, right? But oh no, you're just going to have to wipe it out with a paper towel, right? So yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's going to be a gunk trap. I mean, you know, if it's like, if you're cutting things that are coated in WD-40 every day and then you just have to use the same knife at the end of the day to cut your cheese, then clean it, right? My suggestion would be don't use the same knife. Whenever I see that type of comment, it's like, what a bizarre thing. Now I have WD-40 in my rectangle. When I go to cut my cheese, I'm going to get WD-40 in my cheese and I'm going to eat it and pass away. Well, then don't use the same knife. That's stupid. But if stuff does get in here, you just take a paper towel and you clean it. Just clean it out. That's it, right? So there you go. Excuse me. I got so excited I forgot to breathe. Anyways, no texturing or anything up here. I think this would have been, this area right here would have looked super cool if we just added some texturing or some type of pattern just right here. I'm kind of thinking the same thing on these bigger guys here. You can see there's this long area through here. Not so much on the isotope because this is all, but you can see that the character here is that we added an inlay. It's shadow boxed on the G10 and the micarta and the carbon fiber, whatever the other versions are. It's the same thing, right? I kind of, especially on these full titanium ones, some kind of something in here. That would be cool, but it looks okay the way that it is. Single standoff, right? We kind of covered that. Pocket clip, everything's good except for the bill. And on this guy in particular, I just want it to be shorter, right? In fact, no, not just that guy in particular. I think on all Vero knives, look at this. On the isotope, they're like, let's make it bigger. Shorter would be great. So it's not, if we have to do this bill, it's not smashing into the middle of our palms. Not that you're going to be holding it. But on these bigger guys, right? The pocket clip's not bad. I'm zeroing in on that. It's not terrible. It's kind of a B- of a clip. It's okay. It'll do the job. It looks good. It really, really looks good with the design. You can see the line follows everything. It's real nice. No part of this knife looks out of place. Everything looks really, really good on it. I think there's not really a whole lot more to talk about. There's no pivot lash. Detent feels okay. Still kind of a thud. The Bestech thud. Centering, spot on. Really good. So what's the price on this? So the titanium guy was about $275, which is all right, right? It's not, some of these knives that are manufactured by Bestech or We or whoever are creeping up over $300, and it's like, whoa. Inflation's bad, but it's not that bad, right? $270, all right, that's okay for this. $245 for the guys that are in G10, micarta, or carbon fiber. He doesn't charge any extra for carbon fiber, or you could look at it as he's just charging more for G10 and micarta. I kind of feel like the G10 and micarta ones should have been bumped down to about $220. They're all about $245. It's not the best price in the whole world, but it's not necessarily an offensive price. The biggest problem with this knife is that it doesn't lock. Honestly, I just want this knife to lock. I want it to be, at this size, I don't want it to be an exposed frame lock. I think it would be best as a countersunk titanium liner lock. And then, yeah, this would have been super duper cool. But, you know, if you just love tiny knives that don't lock and they're double detent, you're probably going to like this. It's okay. It's not bad. It's just far from my favorite Vero. Like, Vero has so many cool knives. Like, most of the stuff that he makes is very recommendable. This one, kind of a miss for me, but I think that's going to come down to opinion, which that's what all of this is opinion anyway. Still cool, though. I'm glad I got an opportunity to look at this. That's it. That's really all I have to say about this. Thanks again to the gentleman who loaned this to me. This will be going back to you. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.